Hi guys, so last year I read my very first two Stephen King books. The first one being Fairy Tale, Stephen King's attempt at the young adult fantasy story that I found very confusing and I didn't like at all. And the second one being the captivating horror crime thriller Holly, which I did enjoy a lot. So I thought to, settle the draw and find out if I do or do not enjoy Stephen King books, I had to read a third book of his. So for this third book, I had one of his classics recommended to me, which was actually written under his pseudonym Richard Bachman. So this is the 1978 story, The Long Walk by Stephen King / Richard Bachman. So what is The Long Walk about? The Long Walk is set in a futuristic and authoritarian governed America. It is kind of a dystopian fiction novel by Stephen King. And the basic plot centers around this yearly march, this yearly event that happens, which they call the Long Walk, which basically is 100 young boys taking part in a long walk out of their free will until the last one is standing. And the last one standing gets a huge prize, some big prize. He also gets a lot of money. And most importantly, he gets to live because all the other 99 boys, they get shot once they get tired and they cannot continue to walk on anymore. So in the beginning of the story, we meet our protagonist, Ray Garrity, and we basically get to experience this long walk from his point of view. So the story starts just as he arrives at where he has to register for the long walk, and then he's being dropped off by his mother basically at the door. Okay, enjoy your walk. And it feels kind of weird actually, but we get to experience the story from the point of view of Ray Garrity, a 16-year-old kid that just decided to take part in this long walk that he is basically risking his life, and has very poor odds of winning the walk because there are 99 other guys that want to win as well and want to survive as well. And we do not know much about Ray in the beginning. The walk basically starts immediately after the first few pages. And we then, only kind of start to get to know these characters while they are already walking, and they start talking to each other. They start, building some bonds between each other, these kids, and we get to know a little bit about these characters, although that is very limited information. And that's actually one of my biggest complaints and concerns with this book, because this book, and it is quite a long book, it's like 400 pages. This book focuses only on that activity, on that long walk that they take. And except for establishing some rules for the walk, the kids, they can never walk slower than 4 miles per hour. If they do walk slower, they get a warning, they get a second warning, a third warning, and at the fourth warning, they just get shot. So that's basically what they establish. And then all we then have in the story is just these kids talking to each other. Every now and then we get a little bit of background information by them asking each other about themselves, but that's very limited. And other than that, it's just a description of these boys walking, how tired they get, what starts to hurt first, if they cramp up, how scared they get when they get the first warnings, how they start to, contemplate if this was a very good idea for them to join this walk. But we don't get a lot of world building here, so we basically don't really know what this kind of world looks like in this dystopian America. We don't know how poor off these kids are that makes them join this walk, what their motivation is behind that. So there are a lot of open questions left here. And the problem with that is, if the world building is not being done and the character building is not really being done, there is a lack of emotional connection and a lack of understanding why this person is choosing to do that kind of walk and why he is choosing to take that risk. Like, for example, there is this guy in there called Carr or Scar. He has a wife who is just pregnant. He has a job. His wife is working. That's all we know a little bit about their background. They are still very young, but they seem to be very happy together. He is very convinced he will win the walk. The problem there again is they don't seem to be so bad off that would make me understand why he decided to join that walk and why he decided to join that risk. It just doesn't make any sense at all. So all these decisions feel very disconnected to me. They are not being pushed to do it. I don't know how bad this world actually is, except for the fact that it's of authoritarian led. So, like, for example, they are talking about souvenirs that they had from a trip on London, for example. And they are talking about a lot of things and a lot of comfort in daily life that they have that we also have nowadays, except for, the kind of gadgets and then, computers that we have today, because this was written in the 70s. But they don't feel that bad off that would make me understand why they would choose to go on this walk. They are not being forced to go on the walk. They are choosing themselves to have a 1 in 100 chance to survive this walk, and that just seems very poor odds to just gamble your life on the potential of a grand prize and some money. Now, apart from the lack of this motivation and the lack of the world building, the other thing that I found very unbelievable or unrealistic, and I did a little bit of background search on that, and it seems that is quite a common topic. So one of the main rules that Stephen King specifies for this long walk is that they can never go below 4 miles per hour. And it's not like they don't get any breaks. They don't stop overnight. They never stop. They just continue on walking. I think in total it's like 5 or 6 days, and they just never stop, and they cannot go below 4 miles per hour. And 4 miles per hour may not sound like a lot, but it's actually quite a swift walk. And to do that continuously, and not all these kids are like in their best shape. Many of them are in a very good shape. They are 16 years old, and a lot of them are very athletic. But still, to just continue on walking for 4 hours, and then considering how long it takes for the first people to actually break down, and how many of them can continue on to like day 3. I believe at day 3 we still have like 60 kids or something walking, that they complain a little bit about being tired and about pain, but it's not like what you would expect, and those 4 miles per hour seem very unrealistic. Well, the other thing, everything is already very far-fetched with non-stop walking, basically. But then 4 miles per hour just seems like way too much, way too fast. And then, I thought a little bit about, this motivation is really missing for me for why they are taking part in this. And then I thought a little bit, well, what are kind of prominent stories nowadays that have a similar plot? So we have like the Hunger Games, for example. But the thing with the Hunger Games is, they are being forced to take part in that kind of tournament to the death. And that alone kind of fosters this motivation and this emotional attachment to that person, and how these characters try to deal with the situation that they are unwillingly being placed in. So that's what makes the Hunger Games interesting. Same thing, what is very popular again now, Squid Games. So with Squid Games, they also obviously are kind of having a competition to the death with the last man standing, right? Last person standing. But the difference here again is that the sign-up procedure, I would say. Because number one, in Squid Games, they are signing up to the games under very unclear pretenses. So they don't really know what the games are about. They don't really know the rules of the games. They don't really know that people will be dying. They only find out about that after the first game. And then they cannot leave out of their free will. They can only leave if the majority of contestants, if they want to leave. So there again, it's we see these characters placed in a situation that they do not want to be in and they struggle to get out of. But with the long walk, the rules are very clear to these people that signed up for the long walk. They know exactly what is going to happen to them, and they don't seem to be in such a poor situation that would explain why they are choosing to do it. At least not for 100 kids. You may always find one or two odd people that simply are freaks and are crazy about these things and just want to do it just because, you know. But 100 people, and then also like one guy, I don't remember his name, so maybe it was Abraham. So he basically just signed up for fun and then didn't want to get out of it, because once you signed up, you still have like 3 or 4 chances to get out of it before the event. They can get out if they want until like a day before the walk starts. And the reason he said he didn't get out on these opportunities is because he felt like pressure from his town, and he felt it was the most interesting part and the most interesting talk about his town, so he just didn't do it. But it feels weird to just, you know, start to gamble your life because it just seems interesting for your town to talk about it and to like become the town celebrity for that. So to me, the main problem is that the story felt not believable at all. There would have to be more world building. There would have to be more background on these characters to understand their motivation. And that's just, both of that is not there, which is why I did not get any attachment to the story at all. And then on top of that, you have like, it's just quite boring after some point. They just start talking about the next town that they are going to walk to. They talk a little bit each other about, you know, what they like, what they don't like, about, you know, about girls. There's a lot of talk about girls. There's actually a lot of, you know, very explicit talk in this book that I feel is a little bit too much. So I read some reviews on this book as well that feel that Stephen King was a little bit too horny in writing this book, and I would absolutely agree with that. A little bit of that in there is perfectly fine. That's okay, but it just felt like way too much. Now, and then the last thing that mainly infuriated me as well was, and sorry, spoilers here, it's a very open end, or not very open, but it leaves a bit of room for interpretation. And I do not enjoy these kind of stories. I want to have a clear beginning and I want to have a clear ending to my stories. I'm sorry, that's how I enjoy them. I can deal with happy endings, I can deal with bad endings, but I want to have a clear plot. I want to have a beginning and an end to the story, and The Long Walk did not provide on that. So what does this mean for a rating for me for this book? So as you heard out, probably I'm not a fan of The Long Walk. I did not enjoy reading it. It was not a huge pain to get through it, but I felt very disconnected to the book and to the characters. So from me, that's 2 out of 5 stars for The Long Walk from Stephen King, Richard Bachman. So I did hear that they are currently working on a movie adaptation for The Long Walk. That could be interesting, but I'm not quite sure. I would be interested to watch that at least, though. But yeah, I guess on a conclusion to Stephen King here, I'm not going to say that I'm not going to read any of his books anymore, and I do think there's one or the other in the Rory Gilmore Girl challenge as well that I still need to read. But I'm surely not going to pick his books off the bookshelves in the store when I next walk in there. It's just I don't think his books are really for me. He is writing a lot of very different genres, and with him releasing basically I think it's like 2 books per year or even more. I feel we are at the point with Stephen King that it feels very much like mass production, what he is doing. I hope he still is doing it because he just likes and loves writing so much. But if it's just to, push out and publish as many books as possible, then it feels like a kind of mass production to me, and maybe that's just not for me. That's it, guys, from me. Do let me know in the comments below if you enjoy Stephen King, which books you think I should have been checking out instead of The Long Walk. And yeah, did any of you guys enjoy The Long Walk? Let me know. See you in the next one. Bye, guys.